The front door shuts with a click so soft, it feels wrong. Too soft for a house this large. Too quiet for a man who owns silence the way other people own shoes. The millionaire freezes where he stands, briefcase still hanging from his hand, because laughter drifts through the air and it hits him like a slap dot. It is his son's laughter, real laughter, the kind that doesn't echo in empty rooms. The kind he hasn't heard in months. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. The driver dropped him, early, a meeting canceled, a deal delayed, fate slipping in without permission. He takes one step forward, then another, following the sound like it might disappear if he moves too fast. The marble floor is cold under his shoes. The walls watch him. Every portrait of success seems to hold its breath. The kitchen door is half open. He stops. There, at the long wooden table he never sits at, is his only son, barefoot, legs swinging, his tie loosened, his school bag tossed aside like it doesn't matter. And across from him, kneeling on the floor, is the new black maid. Her sleeves are rolled up, her hair pulled back. She is tying his shoelace, slowly, carefully, smiling like this is exactly where she belongs. The boy laughs again, loud, free, alive, for one suspended second. No one notices the man standing in the doorway. The world exists without him. And something inside his chest tightens, sharp and unfamiliar. Then the maid looks up, her smile vanishes. The room goes silent so fast it feels violent. The boy's laughter dies in his throat. His eyes widen. The maid freezes mid-motion, her fingers still touching the shoe. She knows that look. Every black woman in service knows that look. Authority, judgment, power, walking into the room unannounced. The millionaire's face hardens, his jaw locks, his eyes narrow, like he is measuring a problem that needs to be corrected. In his world, kitchens are not places for bonding, they are places for work. Sons are not raised by hands that scrub floors, they are raised by tutors, schedules, and distance. And maids do not kneel in front of heirs unless something has gone wrong. What is this? He says. His voice is calm, but sharp enough to draw blood. The words hang in the air like a warning. Shot. The boy opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. He looks from his father to the maid, panic rising, unsure which side is safe. The maid stands slowly, smoothing her uniform, folding her hands in front of her body the way she was taught. Eyes lowered, shoulders back, already bracing herself. I'm sorry, sir, she says quietly. Her voice is steady, but her heart is racing. She has learned that apologies sometimes arrive before accusations. Sometimes they are the only shield you get. The millionaire doesn't look at her. His gaze stays on his son, like the child has betrayed him in some unspoken way. His mind fills the silence with assumptions. Boundaries crossed. Familiarity, disrespect. He feels something darker beneath the anger, something old, control slipping, order disturbed, power challenged in his own house. Go to your room, he says. The boy hesitates. His eyes flick back to the maid. There is fear there, but also something else. Trust. Connection. He wants to speak. He wants to explain. But he has learned when to obey. Sloozy slides off the chair and walks past his father without a word. The sound of his footsteps fades down the hallway. The kitchen feels colder. The maid remains standing, eyes still down, breath shallow. She waits for the verdict. She has lived her whole life in moments like this. Moments where someone else decides who she is without asking. Where one look becomes a lifetime label. I didn't mean any disrespect, she says softly. He was having trouble with his shoe. The millionaire finally looks at her. Really? Looks-he sees the uniform, the posture, and the difference between them. And instead of easing him, it tightens something in his chest. Because she looks calm. Because she does not look afraid enough. This is not part of your job, he says. You are here to work, not to get comfortable. Yes, sir, she replies. 2 words, carefully placed. No argument, no defense. She knows better than to explain kindness to someone who thinks kindness has a rank. He turns away from her as if the conversation is finished. He does not acknowledge the apology. He does not notice the way her hands tremble just slightly when she reaches for the cleaning cloth. He does not see the way she swallows hard, pushing something down that wants to rise. He walks out of the kitchen, the echo of his footsteps reclaiming the house. The portraits relax. The silence settles back into its usual shape, but something has shifted. Upstairs, the boy sits on his bed, staring at the door, heart pounding. He doesn't understand what he did wrong. He only knows that for the first time in a long time, he felt seen. He felt normal. He felt like a kid. And now that feeling has been taken away. Downstairs, the maid scrugs the counter. That was already cleaner. Thoughts drift, despite her effort to keep them in line. She thinks of the way the boy smiled when he finally tied his shoe by himself. She thinks of how small his feet looked hanging off the chair. She thinks of how laughter can be dangerous in the wrong house. And somewhere between floors, the millionaire loosens his tie and exhales, telling himself he handled it correctly. That rules matter. That lines exist for a reason. That nothing important happened in that kitchen. But he cannot shake the image. His son laughing. Not because he was entertained, not because he was distracted, but because someone knelt down to meet him where he was. That night, the house does not sleep the same. The boy lies awake, listening for footsteps that never come. The maid lies awake, staring at the ceiling of her small room, replaying every second, wondering which part of herself she needs to erase to keep her job. And the millionaire stands at his bedroom window, looking out at the city he controls. Feeling unsettled by a silence he cannot buy, a misunderstanding has been planted. Small, quiet, easy to ignore, but it has roots now, and in a house built on power and distance, the smallest crack is enough to bring everything down. From that day on, the house does not feel the same. The walls still shine. The floors still glow like polished mirrors. But something unseen moves through the halls now. Suspicion. Control. The kind of quiet that listens back. The millionaire begins to watch the maid the way a guard watches a gate. Too closely. Too often. Every smile she gives his son feels like a challenge. Every soft word sounds like a step out of line. He starts building a case in his head, brick by invisible brick, convincing himself that what he feels is discipline, not fear. Rules appear overnight. Sharp ones, clean ones. She is no longer allowed in the kitchen when the boy is home. No shared space, no shared air. If he enters a room, she must leave it. If he speaks, she must not answer unless spoken to directly. You're here to work, the millionaire tells her, his voice flat, practiced, nods a bond. She nods once. She always nods. She swallows the heat in her throat and the sting behind her eyes and says, "Yes, sir," because that is a language power understands. But the boy does not understand. He feels the change like a sudden cold. He notices empty chairs, silent corners, meals he no longer finishes. He pokes at food that tastes like nothing. His laughter fades into short breaths. He starts sleeping with the light on. At night, when the house is quiet enough to hear thoughts, he asks questions into the dark. Where did she go? Why can't she help me anymore? Did I do something bad? The millionaire hears these questions from the hallway, from behind doors, and irritation. Recess first, then something sharper. Threat? Because the questions are not about toys or money. They are about presence. And presence is something he cannot control with a check. He responds the only way he knows how. With distance, with commands, with reminders. Of who decides what? He believes respect must be enforced before it disappears completely. He believes authority is fragile, like glass, and once cracked, it never looks the same. So he tightens the rules. He shortens his temper. He convinces himself he is protecting his son from confusion, not causing it. The maid feels the weight of it all pressing down. Every step she takes is measured. Every breath feels loud. She moves through the house like a shadow, careful not to cross paths, careful not to leave a trace. But children notice shadows. The boy watches doorways. He listens for footsteps that never stop outside his room anymore. When nightmares come, they come hard. He wakes up, shaking, calling a name he has learned to whisper. One night, the storm breaks through the cracks. The house is asleep when the boys cry. Slices through the hallway, sharp, sudden, the kind that pulls you out of dreams before you know where you are. The maid hears it from down the hall and stops moving. She knows the rules. She knows the cost. She also knows that sound. She waits a second, then another. The cry comes again, smaller now, scared. She moves before she can stop herself. She kneels beside the boy's bed, keeping her voice low, like a secret meant only for him. She does not touch him at first. She just speaks, slow, steady, telling him he is safe, that dreams cannot hurt him, that he is not alone. When his breathing slows, she hums softly, a tune from far away, a tune that feels like arms around the chest. The boy's body relaxes, his eyes close. That is when the light snaps on. The millionaire stands in the doorway, face tight with fury, robe hanging open like a judge's cloak. His voice explodes through the room, loud enough to wake the walls. I warned you. Everything freezes. The staff who rushed up the stairs stop cold. The boy jerks awake, confused, tears spilling. The maid rises slowly, heart pounding, but her face calm. She does not argue. She does not beg. She does not point out that his son was shaken. She knows better than to explain compassion to someone who sees it as disobedience. You were told the rules, he says, stepping closer. You were told where you belong. The boy cries openly now, clutching his pillow, eyes darting between them. The maid stands straight, hands folded, taking the blame like she has taken so many things before. "I'm sorry, sir," she says. Her voice does not shake. That seems to anger him more. "This is your final warning," he says. "One more step out of line, and you're gone." The words land heavy. Finally, the staff looks away. No one speaks. The boy sobs harder, calling out for her, but the millionaire cuts him off with a look. Authority reasserted. Order restored. Or so he thinks. The maid leaves the room without looking back. She walks down the hall with her head high, because dignity is the one thing they cannot take unless you hand it over. In her small room later, she sits on the edge of the bed, hands shaking now that no one is watching. She thinks of all the lines she has learned not to cross. Lines drawn in marble. Cold. Permanent. She thinks of how easily kindness becomes a crime when it threatens control. What the millionaire does not see is what everyone else sees. The way the boy only sleeps through the night when someone hums nearby. The way he repeats words the maid taught him, saying thank you without being told. Bowing his head before meals, even when no one is watching. The way he ties his shoes now, slow but proud, because someone took the time to show him without rushing away. The way the emptiness in his chest shrinks when she is near. The tension thickens. It lives in the corners. It waits on staircases. It sits between father and son. At breakfast, like an extra place setting, no one acknowledges. The house becomes a battlefield, where nothing is said out loud, but everything is felt. Power presses down harder, and the silence pushes back. And the maid, carrying a past no one has asked about, continues to endure. Not for the paycheck. Not for the house, but for the child who finally feels seen, even if seeing him costs her everything. Somewhere deep in the mansion, a line has been drawn, and everyone can feel it. No one knows yet who will be the first to cross it. The call comes in the middle of the night, and it does not ring long. It doesn't need to. One vibration on the bedside table is enough to pull the millionaire out of sleep like a hand around the throat. He answers without checking the number. He already knows something is wrong. The voice on the other end is careful, trained, calm in the way that only makes panic grow. There has been an incident at school. His son fainted in class. They are taking him to the hospital. Stress, they say, anxiety, possible emotional neglect. The words land slow and heavy, each one pressing down harder than the last. Emotional neglect. The millionaire sits up in bed, heart pounding, mind scrambling for logic, for blame. For anything that does not point back at him. The hospital smells like disinfectant and fear. Bright lights, long halls, too many machines beeping at once. He walks fast, coat still half-buttoned, power and money suddenly useless in a place that does not care who he is. When he reaches the room, his son is already there. Small in the white bed, wires attached to his chest like thin reminders of how fragile bodies really are. The boy is asleep, but not resting. His face twitches, his brow tightens, his lips move. He is calling a name. Soft at first, then clearer. Again and again. Her name. The millionaire stands at the foot of the bed, frozen. He has never heard his son call for him like that. Never in sickness, never in fear. The realization creeps in slowly, unwelcome, sharp. He watches his son's hands clench the sheets, his breathing uneven, his body tense even in sleep. For the first time, the silence he built around his life feels cruel instead of controlled. The door opens quietly. A nurse steps aside, unsure, hesitant, and behind her stands the maid. Hair pulled back hastily, shoes slipped on wrong. Breath shallow from rushing. She looks smaller here, stripped of the house, the uniform, the rules, just a woman, standing at the edge of permission, not knowing if she is allowed to cross it. She does not speak. She just looks at the boy. His eyes flutter open. The change is immediate. He sees her and reaches out without thinking, his small hand grasping for hers like a lifeline. She steps forward instinctively, taking his hand, her thumb brushing his knuckles the way she always does. His breathing slows. His shoulders relax. The machine's rhythm steadies. The room shifts. The nurse notices. The doctor notices. And the millionaire notices too. He feels it in his chest. The truth moving, rearranging things he thought were fixed. He wants to interrupt, to reclaim control, but he doesn't. He's for once. He watches without judgment, without assumptions. The doctor clears his throat softly. He asks questions, simple ones, about routine, about stress, about who the boy talks to, about who comforts him. The answers come slowly, awkwardly, until the truth can no longer stay hidden behind uniforms and job titles. The maid speaks when asked. Calm, direct, no drama. She explains how she found the boy withdrawn, how she noticed the signs, nightmares, silence, loss of appetite, the same signs she had seen before, in other children, in other places. She explains how she tried to help within the limits she was given, how she listened, how she stayed close. Without pushing, how she gave the boy space to feel safe. The millionaire listens, his face tight, his thoughts racing. This is not the story he told himself. This is not the narrative he built to justify his rules. He feels cornered, not by accusation, but by clarity, pressed for answers he did not expect. The doctor asks a question that breaks the room open. How does she know all this? There is a pause, a long one, the kind that carries weight. The maid looks at the boy first, then at the floor, then finally up at the man who signs her checks and controls her future. Her voice is steady when she speaks, but there is history in it. She says she was a child psychologist. She worked at an institution once, a powerful one, well-funded, well-connected. She says she reported abuse when she saw it, that she refused to stay quiet, that she believed the system would protect the children. It didn't. She was silenced, her license taken, her name dragged. Through meetings she was never invited to. She was labeled difficult, unreliable, a problem. Doors close, one by one. Calls went unanswered. And eventually, she took the only work that would feed her and keep her standing. Domestic work, invisible work. Work that let her survive but never speak. The room is still when she finishes. No one interrupts. No one rushes to soften the edges. The truth hangs there, heavy and undeniable. The millionaire feels the ground shift under his feet. Everything he believed about her, about the situation, about himself, cracks at once. He remembers the kitchen, the laughter, the peace on his son's face. He remembers how he crushed it, without asking why it existed. Shame creeps in, slow and thick, settling into places pride used to live. He looks at his son again, really looks, not as an extension of legacy or control, but as a child who needed something he did not know how to give up. He sees the imbalance clearly now. Not just wealth versus labor, not just authority versus service, but ego versus humanity, fear versus care. He realizes that the person he tried to control was the one holding his son together when he wasn't looking. He power shifts in that room, but not loudly, not with raised voices or dramatic gestures. It shifts through truth, through a hand held at the right moment, through the realization that money can build walls, but it cannot teach presence. The millionaire feels smaller than he ever has, and for the first time, it does not terrify him. It humbles him. The boy squeezes the maid's hand in his sleep. She squeezes back. The machines continue their quiet work. The doctor steps out, giving them space. The nurse follows, and the millionaire stands there, alone with the weight of what he almost destroyed. He does not speak yet. He does not know how. Words feel fragile now, insufficient. He only watches as his son rests easier than he has in weeks, maybe months. And he understands something he never wanted to learn this way. The collapse did not come with shouting. It came with silence, with truth finally allowed to breathe, and nothing will ever be the same again. The house opens up again, but not the way it used to. The doors are the same. The halls are just as wide. The floors still shine, but something invisible has shifted, like air after a storm. The millionaire walks through his home slower now, not because he is tired, but because he is paying attention. For the first time, he hears footsteps that are not his own. For the first time, silence does not obey him. He gathers the staff in the living room one morning. No speeches, no dramatic entrance. He stands there without the armor of authority, hands loose at his sides, voice unsteady in a way that surprises everyone, including himself. He looks at the maid, not past her, not over her, at her, and he apologizes. Not with money, not with promises wrapped in contracts, with words, simple ones, honest ones. He says he was wrong. He says he judged what he did not understand. He says he took kindness as a threat because he mistook control for care. The room is quiet. No one claps. No one speaks. The apology does not erase the past, but it changes the present. He restores her dignity publicly, naming her role, her skill, her humanity. He asks her to stay, not as staff to be managed, but as a caregiver and consultant for his son. As someone whose voice matters, he does not demand, he asks. That alone feels like a small miracle. The boy hears the change before he understands it. He feels it in the way the house breathes again. He laughs, really laughs, the sound bouncing off walls that once swallowed it whole. He eats again. He sleeps through the night. He talks. He asks questions. He tells stories that spill over each other because there is finally someone listening without checking the time. The maid stays steady through it all. She does not gloat. She does not remind the millionaire of every harsh word, every cold rule. She simply continues being who she always was, present, calm, grounded, the kind of person children trust without knowing why. The millionaire watches from a distance at first. He sits in doorways, He leans against walls. He sees his son open up like a window, finally let in light. And the strangest thing happens. His wealth starts to feel small. Not useless, but limited. He begins to understand that money can create space, but it cannot fill it. It can buy time, but it cannot make you use it well. He feels humbled, not humiliated. Changed, not defeated. So he starts changing too. Slowly, awkwardly, he listens instead of interrupting. He asks instead of ordering. He sits at the table instead of standing at the head of it. He learns his son's favorite food. He learns the rhythm of bedtime. He learns that presence is not something you schedule. It is something you offer. And sometimes, something you learn too late. Weeks pass, then months. The house grows warmer. The rules soften. The walls stop watching. And quietly, without making it a spectacle, the millionaire does something else. He funds an independent investigation into the abuse the maid once exposed. Not as charity, as responsibility. He uses his power not to protect himself, but to open doors that were sealed shut. Files are reopened. Voices long ignored are finally heard. Her name is cleared, not whispered, spoken out loud. Her truth, no longer buried under polite lies. The day the results come in, the maid stands very still. Relief comes slowly. Like it doesn't trust the moment yet. She has lived too long waiting for the ground to give way again. But this time, it holds. Her voice is restored. Her past no longer a shadow that follows her into every room. The millionaire watches her receive what should have never been taken. And he knows this does not make him a hero. It makes him late. But late is better than never. The time comes for her to leave the house, not because she is pushed out, because she is moving forward. On her last day, the kitchen looks the same. Same table, same light through the window. Same place where everything once went wrong. The boy runs into her arms without thinking. He holds on tight, like he knows some goodbyes. Shapio, he cries. Not the scared kind. The full kind. The kind that means you felt something real. She hugs him back, steady and strong, whispering words meant to stay with him long after she's gone. The millionaire stands nearby, eyes wet, throat tight. He steps forward and thanks her. Not as an employer. As a father, his voice breaks, just a little, and he does not hide it. He has learned that strength does not always sound firm. Sometimes it sounds honest. When she walks out, the door closes softly. Too soft for a house that once worshipped noise. The boy stands at the window, watching until she is gone from sight. The millionaire puts a hand on his shoulder. They stand there together, not speaking, understanding something. Words would only shrink. Life goes on. The house remains. The money remains. But the blindness does not. The story does not end with punishment. It ends with awareness. With the understanding that dignity does not come from position. That authority means nothing without compassion. That the greatest failure of the powerful is not cruelty, but the choice not to see. And the greatest lesson is simple, even if it costs everything to learn it. The ones we overlook, the ones we silence, the ones we push to the edge. They are often the ones holding our world together. And once you finally see that, you never build the same way again.